feel like there's got to be more to life than just, the daily grind. Like, what if we could wake up actually excited about our day, energized, aligned with our actual reason for being?
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Right. And that's where I think this whole idea of Ikigai comes in. So today's deep dive, we are heading straight in Japan to explore this philosophy.
It's less about, like a strict career path and more about a life that's full of purpose and joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting? It might actually be their secret to, get this, incredible longevity.
Oh, absolutely. The concept of Ikigai is everywhere in Japanese culture. It even influences things like, their art and even their daily rituals.
We've got so much to cover. We've got articles, you've got your notes on, like centenarians is going to be good. But let's start, I guess, at the heart of Ikigai.
Sure.
What is it?
It's kind of like finding that sweet spot where your passion, your mission, your profession, and what you're good at, your vocation, all just kind of beautifully intertwine.
Okay, so Venn diagram time, right? I'm getting visual. There's overlap between these things, but break it down for me. What does this actually look like in a person's life?
Okay, so imagine like a master artisan in Japan, a takumi. They dedicate their entire life to perfecting a craft. So their work is both their passion, their purpose, their livelihood, and their calling, right? That's Ikigai in action.
Wow. That level of dedication is almost like unheard of, honestly, in our world today, right? Like everything's fast-paced, instant gratification. So it's about more than just finding a job you love. It's, like you said, aligning your work with what you value, finding a sense of purpose in literally everything you do.
Exactly. And when you hit that sweet spot, you often experience what's called a flow state.
Okay.
That feeling of being totally absorbed in what you're doing, like time just kind of disappears.
Wait, flow state. Are you talking about when you're so engrossed in something you completely lose track of time?
Yes.
Like when I get lost in a good book and totally forget to eat dinner. Is that a clue to my Ikigai?
It very well could be.
Okay.
That sense of like effortless focus and just complete absorption, that's a big indicator that you might be tapping into something that's aligned with your Ikigai.
Okay, this is already making me rethink my weekend plans. But you mentioned something earlier about Ikigai and longevity.
Yes.
Tell me more about that connection.
Okay, so there's this fascinating case study that really brings this connection to life. And it's this village in Okinawa, Japan. It's called Ogimi. It's often called the Village of Longevity.
A real-life village of super-agers.
Yeah.
This is like something out of a movie.
I know, right? And it's very real. And researchers have been studying the people of Ogimi for decades, trying to figure out, like, what are their secrets to living such long and healthy lives? And while genetics definitely play a part, a lot of researchers believe their lifestyle, which is deeply rooted in Ikigai, is a major factor in their longevity.
Okay, so how does Ikigai actually play out in their everyday lives? Like, are we talking about a village full of CEOs and marathon runners?
Not quite. The really interesting thing is the people of Ogimi, they're mostly, farmers, fishermen, artisans. They live very simple lives, very connected to their community and to their purpose. So they may not be running Fortune 500 companies, but they find deep satisfaction and meaning in their work, in their everyday lives.
So they're living proof that Ikigai isn't about, like, climbing this ladder to success. It's about finding joy and purpose in literally anything you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's like tending your garden.
Yeah.
Or like casting a fishing net.
Exactly. And speaking of gardens, one study actually found that elderly Okinawans who gardened, they had a lower mortality risk. And they were also more likely to be like physically active and socially engaged.
Wow.
It seems like even their hobbies have like health benefits.
Wow, even their hobbies have hobbies. But I'm guessing it's not just gardening. What else can we learn from these centenarians of Ogimi? Spill the tea.
Okay, so they actually have something called the 5 Secrets of Ogimi for like a long and happy life. And it's not, rocket science or anything. It's more like just really down-to-earth wisdom.
Hit me with those wisdom bombs.
Okay, number 1, don't worry.
Oh, easier said than done, right?
I know, right? But Okinawans have a remarkably stress-free approach to life. They really emphasize like community support, strong family bonds, and a deep connection to nature. And all of these things kind of buffer against stress.
Okay, ditching all my deadlines and moving to a seaside village is sounding really tempting right now. What's secret number 2?
Okay, number 2 is cultivate good habits. So a traditional Okinawan diet, it's full of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, with smaller portions and a lot less processed food than, typical Western diets.
Makes sense.
They also really prioritize daily physical activity, even if it's just a leisurely walk.
Yeah. It's good advice for a reason, right?
Exactly.
Good food, moving your body. All right, what's next on their list for a long and happy life?
Number 3 is something we touched on earlier, nurturing friendships.
Right. The social support networks. Tell me more about those. They sound like my kind of book club, but with less gossip and more like life wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Moais are basically groups of people who share a common interest or purpose, and they provide each other with like social, financial, even emotional support throughout their lives. And these tight-knit communities, they offer this really deep sense of belonging, purpose, and security, which is really cool.
Wow, that's amazing. Having that kind of like built-in support system must make such a difference, especially as people get older. What's secret number 4?
Live an unhurried life. So
Mm.
the Okinawans, they have a very different pace of life than a lot of us are used to, right? They
Yeah.
believe in taking things slow, appreciating the present moment, and not getting caught up in, the hustle and bustle of kind of like modern life.
I like that. I feel like I resonate with that a lot. I always feel my best when I slow down and actually appreciate the small things.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day. Okay, what's the final piece of wisdom from the village of long life?
Number 5 is be optimistic. The people of Ogimi, they have a remarkably positive outlook on life. They really focus on gratitude, they maintain strong social connections, they have a strong sense of purpose, and all of these things really contribute to like just a sunnier disposition overall.
Yeah.
And studies have actually shown that optimism is linked to better cardiovascular health and a longer lifespan.
Wow. It sounds like they've really figured out how to create a life that's full of purpose and connection and joy. So if we want to cultivate our own sense of Ikigai, we can definitely look to the Okinawans for inspiration. But where do we even begin, like on a personal level?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? It's definitely a journey of self-discovery, and there are a lot of different paths you can take. But one really interesting approach is actually rooted in a form of Japanese therapy called Morita therapy.
Morita therapy. I've never even heard of that. How does that tie into this whole finding your Ikigai?
So Morita therapy really focuses on accepting our thoughts and feelings without letting them control us. And it kind of follows this 4-phase process that can be really helpful in uncovering your own Ikigai.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. Let's break down these 4 phases. What's the first step?
So phase 1 is all about rest and observation. And
Observe.
this isn't about just like, zoning out in front of the TV. It's about really taking a step back from your busy life to actually observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So kind of like hitting the reset button on your mind.
Exactly. It's about kind of creating space for self-reflection and paying attention to what brings you joy, what drains your energy, and what you're naturally drawn to.
I can see how that would be really helpful. It's like you're clearing out the mental clutter to make space for, something new. What's next on the agenda for phase 2?
Phase 2 is about light activity. This is where you start gradually, like re-engaging with the world around you, but in a gentle and mindful way. This might involve simple tasks like, gardening, calligraphy, spending time in nature, activities that just kind of bring you a sense of peace and focus.
So instead of diving headfirst back into the chaos of life, you're kind of dipping your toes back in slowly and mindfully.
Exactly. And it's about paying attention to how different activities make you feel. Like, do you feel energized and engaged or drained and restless?
It's about tuning into those like subtle cues from your mind and body, those whispers that kind of tell you if something feels aligned or not. What's next in Foods 3?
Phase 3 is where you start putting those self-discoveries into action. It's the work in action phase.
Okay, so this is where we're taking those whispers and turning them into something real, something tangible.
Exactly. It's about experimenting with different activities, exploring your passions, and just kind of seeing what feels right.
And I imagine this phase probably involves a lot of trial and error.
Absolutely. There's no magic formula here. It's about trying new things, being open to new possibilities, and learning from your experiences.
It's like you're trying on different hats to see which one fits, or maybe even designing your own hat. All right, what does phase 4, the grand finale, have in store?
So phase 4 is all about acceptance and integration. Like you're taking all those lessons you've learned throughout this whole process and you're starting to kind of weave them into your life.
Okay, so it's not about like, this magical end goal where everything's perfect. It's about continuously kind of refining and evolving, I guess, like your understanding of your own Ikigai.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that your Ikigai, it's not static. It can change and evolve as you do.
Yeah, that makes sense. What might have felt like my Ikigai like 5 years ago definitely looks different now.
Right.
So it's kind of a lifelong journey of self-discovery, really.
Absolutely. And like any good journey, there are going to be detours and unexpected turns and moments of, uncertainty. But that's all part of the process.
That's actually really reassuring to hear because I think, sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to have it all figured out, but maybe it's more about embracing that unknown and trusting the journey.
Mm.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ikigai,
Yeah.
what is like one key takeaway you hope our listeners take away from this whole exploration?
I think, honestly, the most important thing is to be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
Like throughout this whole process. Don't get discouraged if you don't have that, like, aha moment right away. It's a journey. It's not a race.
I love that. Be patient with yourself.
Yeah,
Trust that the answers will kind of, reveal themselves when the time is right.
exactly. And remember, your Ikigai doesn't have to be something grand or extraordinary. It really can be found in the ordinary, in those everyday moments that just bring you joy and a sense of purpose.
So whether it's like, pursuing a lifelong passion, connecting with your community, or just like savoring a quiet moment in nature, it's about finding those things that make you feel alive, aligned with like, your purpose.
Well said. And with that, maybe we leave you with this final thought. What would it look like to live a life where you woke up every morning feeling a sense of purpose, even in just the smallest ways?
Until next time, keep diving deep.